Hello and a really big warm welcome to this module from Pluralsight. My name is Andrew Mallett and we're going to be taking a look at managing hardware. Now we of course are used to the ls command, but did you know there are many commands that start with ls? And we can use this to list our hardware. So ls CPU is going to list our CPU information. ls USB, we're going to be able to check our USB bus. ls mem, we're going to be able to see the memory that is in use. We can use ls hw, but the output is quite verbose, so we can use certain classes, such as our processor. We can look at our block devices with ls block, and we can look at PCI devices using ls PCI. Now come on, I think it's a really good idea that we dive out and actually have a look at this on our system. Having enabled SSH, the secure shell server on my desktop system, I can now continue to connect from my command line SSH client. We know about the ls command, but as we said in the slide, there are some friends to this. If I go through and use ls and tab, I can see all of the commands beginning with ls. And we have a lot of them. Now, maybe not all of them do actually list information, but let's run through some of these. If I use ls and take a look at running ls CPU, we're going to be listing the CPUs that are on my system. We can see quite detailed information for our CPUs, but if we just want simple information, such as the amount of CPUs that we've got, there's a really useful command that we can run called nproc, just displaying the number of processes that we have. Let's take a look at this. So I can see then simply I have 4 processes. Well, okay, let's continue and take a look at listing maybe our PCI bus. So ls and PCI, and we can see our PCI bus and what we have plugged into that. If I go through and take a look at ls and USB, you can probably guess that we are listing the USB bus. But what about this one? You'll guess it from the command ls mem, but I bet you didn't know about this. So we can see our total online memory is 8 gig, but it's broken into 2 separate ranges, one of 3 gig and one of 5 gig, and we address it in blocks of 128 meg. So simple information about the memory you have on your system. We also can list the actual hardware itself, and that's ls hw. I get a warning that it should be run as root, but I get enough information for what I need to show without running it as root. But there is a lot of hardware on my system. We can drill down to a particular class. So if I use ls show -c and processor, we're only looking at the processor class. So we see detailed information for each of our 4 processors, processor 0 through to processor 3. I can clear the screen and I can go through and put another class, maybe storage. And then we see our storage devices. But this is all very good if you know the classes. But if we look at the man or manual page for ls hw, when we go through and take a look and start scrolling through, of course we can see all of the options that we can put in. But just paging down a little bit, then I'm able to see that I've got -short to give me short information. But also when I move to -c or -class, we can see that it demonstrates that I can look at classes with short. So let's go through and run lshw with -short, and we can see the output, and it's the 3rd column that we want. Now the output isn't perfect because we can also see there are some without the 2nd column. So it's going to make it difficult to grab the information. We could read it from the output here, but if we just wanted a simple way to see some of our classes, we could go through and clear our screen, so Control and L, and then pipe the output to awk, AWK, and then we can go through and put that we need to print the third field, and then take a look at our output, and we can see now that we've only got the information that we're looking at. I say there will be some additional information just because the inconsistency in their column data. But if I then go through and take a look at sorting to give unique values, we can see then that we have at least some of our classes listed. Mainly we'll be looking at the lowercase values. Everything else is going to be just picked up because of missing column information. But at least it's a quick way of sorting to see some of the classes. So if I go through now and look at I can still leave the minus short in and maybe take a look at the class and display. We can see the short information for our display hardware.